Now we'll come to the last part of our roundup, where we'll be taking up some important rulings. So this first ruling is the High Court ruling, Gujarat High Court ruling. So in this case, the department passed a summary order in DRC 07, but no reasoned or detailed order was passed. So because the taxpayer was not aware as to what allegations or findings the department had against it, it challenged the validity of such order before the High Court. So the High Court held that in the absence of detailed order, the taxpayer was unable to file the appeal, and therefore the revenue was directed to pass a reasoned order within 7 days. Here, one point we want to highlight is that unlike excise and service tax laws, where only a show cause notice and an order used to be passed, the litigation proceedings are quite detailed as far as GST laws are concerned. Therefore, the taxpayers need to be mindful that the department follows all due process of law, and in case it does not follow, then validity of such proceedings can be challenged before the High Court like this one. Moving ahead, a very important ruling of Madras High Court. In this case, the taxpayer was supplying manufactured components to a third-party vendor. Third-party vendor in turn assembled and exported goods. And with respect to the machines installed at taxpayers' end, EPCG benefit was availed. Due to inadvertent error, the third-party vendor who was eventually exporting the goods did not mention taxpayers' EPCG license number on shipping bills. So, due to which the department contended that the taxpayer's EPCG obligation is not discharged and demanded duty. So the High Court held that foreign trade policy mandates that both name of supporting manufacturer and EPCG license number has to be mentioned on shipping bill. It's a mandatory requirement under FTP. But even if such requirement has not been adhered, even if such details have not been given on the shipping bill, this requirement can be satisfied constructively. The High Court held that the taxpayer should be given an opportunity that eventually exports were made through third-party vendor, and it can produce supporting documents in its favor. And based on that, the EPCG benefit was extended to the taxpayer. A very important ruling because many taxpayers, specifically exporters, they avail this EPCG advance authorization benefits. And in case they come across with such errors being done, so they can resort to rulings like this. This is a AAAR ruling, ICU Medical, relating to issue of GST on reimbursement of expenses. Firstly, to understand the facts, there was an overseas holding company which has a subsidiary in India, and the subsidiary had employees. So the holding company provided credit card facility to Indian employees for making spends on hotel, travel, etc. Whatever amount was being spent was reimbursed by subsidiary to holding company on actual basis. So the company went to the authorities seeking advance ruling whether GST is applicable on such reimbursement or not. So this is what AAAR held. AAAR held that as nature of service, subsidiary company was providing software development services to holding company. Whatever expenses were incurred by subsidiary company were eventually reimbursed by holding company only, because the arrangement between holding and subsidiary company was to work on a cost plus basis. So whatever costs were incurred by subsidiary company were sought as reimbursement from the holding company. The authority held that reimbursements qualify as advance towards software development services, and whatever is applicability of GST on software development will equally apply to reimbursement. In our view, this ruling conclusion is incorrect, because if we understand the whole transaction, firstly, the expenses were incurred by employees. The holding company would have paid the amount to the bank. Subsidiary company would have reimbursed that amount as it is to the holding company. In our view, this reimbursement transaction closes there. It is more like a transaction in money that holding company spent or made payment to banks for these expenses. Thereafter, because for subsidiary company, this amount would have come as a cost. On a cost plus basis, it would have recovered from the overseas holding company. At that time, applicable GST should apply. So in our view, the AAAR erred in holding that this is an advance towards software development services. Another important ruling on ITC on promotional goods, this is again a AAAR ruling. So here the facts were that the taxpayer was giving two type of goods to its franchisees, distributors, etc. One was non-distributable goods. So say, for example, banners, etc., hoardings. And secondly, distributable goods, which can be like pens or gifts, etc., which can be distributed to end customers. So the issue before AAAR was availability of ITC on both categories of goods. As regard non-distributable goods is concerned, AAAR held that cost of these goods is not capitalized in books of accounts and treated as revenue expenditure. Therefore, these are not capital goods. So we'll halt here only. In our view, this reasoning taken by AAAR is not correct, because the definition of capital goods nowhere says that its cost should be capitalized in books of accounts. AAAR held that franchisees and distributors are independent entities, they are not related, and concluded that this is a FOC supply which is non-taxable, and ITC is not available because it's an exempt supply. So in our view, this ruling is absolutely incorrect, because these goods were given for the sales promotion itself. There was no supply per se, and therefore the question of treating it as exempt supply does not arise. In our view, the taxpayer was entitled for claiming ITC on this. Coming to distributable goods, the AAAR held that there was no contractual obligation for the taxpayer to provide these goods, hence they qualify as gift, and ITC is not available. In our view, this part of ruling is correct, because this was given more as gifts, etc., and therefore ITC should not be allowed. Supply between distinct persons, another highly debated topic under GST regime. So this was related to Dubai Chamber of Commerce. So it was a industry body having a head office in Dubai and a liaison office in India. So liaison office in India was providing management and administrative support by connecting businesses in Dubai with businesses in India for supply of goods or services. And whatever expenses were incurred by liaison office were reimbursed on cost to cost basis. So this is what AAR held, that activity of connecting Indian business partners with UAE business partners is a supply. They also held that the Indian liaison office qualifies intermediary service because it's acting on behalf of Dubai office and facilitating connection between Indian business partners and UAE business partners. They also held that this activity qualifies business because the taxpayer was charging fee for its services, and therefore GST is applicable. So in our view, even this ruling is incorrect, because one, there are plethora of rulings even in GST that liaison offices or branch offices located in India, they do not provide services to the overseas company. They work under RBI and FEMA regulations. and have a limited activity. And secondly, in terms of nature of activities also, in our view, neither it was a supply nor it was an intermediary service. Then another important ruling is whether there is a service for activities done by a partner for its firm or not. So this is a SISTAT ruling. In this case, a partner of the firm was undertaking promotion and marketing activities for which a specified consideration was paid. So the partner wrongly paid service tax, and when it realized that service tax is not payable, it filed refund. The revenue sought to deny the refund. So this is what the tribunal held, that whatever activities were done were in capacity of a partner only. Both partner and partnership firm are one only. There was no contract for provision of services. In case of partnership firm, because partner is part and parcel of the firm, therefore, the main requirement of a service that there should be two parties, service provider and service recipient, that was missing. It was not falling under purview of person as well. Therefore, service tax is not applicable.